The point-in-time count, or PIT count, is an annual count that happens every year in our community. It allows for service organizations, providers, and volunteers to go out into the community and get an accurate, detailed count of the individuals and households that are experiencing homelessness. This is done by using two different types of counts: a sheltered count, which counts everybody that's staying in a shelter or transitional living shelter on the night of the count, or those that are experiencing unshelteredness or living outside or places not meant for human habitation. The data collected from the point-in-time count and these surveys is really important for service providers and organizations to address the needs of those that are experiencing homelessness and for us to cater our programs and services to meet those needs. The results of the point-in-time count are sent to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and that dictates the level of funding that communities are going to get to address homelessness in the coming years. The number of people that are identified as experiencing homelessness and the funding that we receive are directly linked together. So it's important that we're getting out there and we're counting everybody as possible, that they're being heard, and that we're getting the funding and that we're getting the resources that we need to provide for these individuals and help them end homelessness and get them into stable housing. A 2021 community satisfaction survey ranked homelessness as one of the #1 issues facing our community that needs addressed. I agree, you agree, we all agree that that is something that we need to be better at, and we can be better at. But one of the ways that we get better and we do better is by collecting data so we can show where we're at now and how far we're coming in the future. It allows us to map our progress as a community to see how we're changing these things. We've seen an increase in shelter beds, we've seen an increase in permanent supportive housing solutions, which take people from chronic homelessness and place them in a permanent residency where there's wraparound services and case management on site. We've also seen an increase in micro shelters, something our communities never had before, but the data we collected from the point-in-time count was able to show the city that these resources and providing these services is integral in taking people from homelessness and eventually putting them into permanent housing solutions. Those funds that we get from the federal government and from state entities by using the point-in-time count data has led to an increase in affordable housing in the region. While there's still a greater need for affordable housing, these numbers are going to be able to paint that picture and show that that need still exists and that we need to do better at it. It's also going to show that we need more funds and more resources to be able to help people pay their rent, to help people get into stable housing, and to provide case management and support so we can keep them in those environments. And so we're seeing our community excel. The Community Action Agency's mission is to empower those individuals that are living in poverty. And one of the ways that we can do that is by going out there as a collective, interacting with those that are experiencing homelessness, building that human connection, showing those individuals there's someone out there that still cares, while still collecting data that's going to help organizations succeed in our mission and providing safe and stable housing for every individual experiencing homelessness in our community.
So here at Arches, we have a general rule of policies and procedures that we go through, and basically it is to help alleviate the pressures of outreach and the scary dangers or the stigmas that go with it. So the first thing we do is we explain the environment. We explain who the clients are. Now, the clients are homeless by nature. They do not have a place of residence legally. So they live in parks, they live by overpasses, they live in the back of forests. They do this because it is strategic to their advantage of survival. By the overpass, they can beg by nearby cars that are stopped waiting to get onto the freeway or off. In the forest, there are families that will see them and they will give, and there are resources available. They also like to camp by large bodies of water. Large body of water usually means people are nearby. They want to camp close enough so they can be part of the city, but not necessarily in it, so they can come and go as they please. Now, when entering that environment, you definitely want to wear the proper attire. You are going to be dealing with severe mud. You're going to be dealing with severe dirt, grime, a lot of garbage, a lot of trash. It's going to be unhygienic in a lot of ways. You're dealing with people with mental disabilities that deal with that in the sense of they use alcohol or have an extreme drug addiction. And so to keep you safe from that, as well as the elements, we usually have a requirement of what we wear. First and foremost, we never wear open-toed shoes. So we wear closed-toed shoes because it's more protective. Thicker boot and sole in case you need to step on things, over things, gives you better grip when you're out in the mud and the dirt, if you're climbing up hills, depending on where the clients are camped. Same thing, you're gonna wanna keep rain gear. We live in the Pacific Northwest, and so with the rain and precipitation that we have frequently, it's always a good idea to have waterproof gear. Hats are always recommended, gloves, long sleeve shirts, pants, those type of things are what we require when we go out. When we do outreach, there are cardinal rules that all of us follow, no matter who is doing the outreach. If you feel unsafe, if you feel threatened or intimidated, it is our policy to leave immediately. And there is no issues, qualms, or problems about that. You get out. You never do outreach alone, and you never do outreach at night. So in approaching a client, when you want to interact with them and talk with them, it's actually very simple. I think we make it more difficult than it actually needs to be because of our own fears and phobias. But I think when you realize that they're just people like us who have the same wants, needs, and desires, just to be talked to, valued, and appreciated, once you understand that, it takes away a lot of the stigma. Basically, our policy here at Arches is that we are, first and foremost, polite and friendly. Introduce yourself. Say, hello, my name is so-and-so. Nice to meet you. And then you introduce what you're doing. Also, it's always a good idea, compliment them. See something that you can relate with. Say, oh, I like your shorts, or you like your sandals, I like your socks. So now you've built a connection. You built some commonality that gives room for growth and a personal connection. And then in the midst of that, you can say, hey, I have a few items that I would like to give to you to help improve your quality of life. Because that's what we are about. We are about trying to help improve people's quality of life.
For trauma-informed care, the one thing I always think of is that it's never what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. So some of the behaviors and interactions you might have are not what you would have in a normal everyday situation oftentimes, and so always keeping that in mind and being non-judgmental and understanding that you are walking into their home and being respectful of that. When you're approaching a camp, you'll always want to announce yourself from a distance and let them know you know who you are and why you're there, and let them come to you and not to force a situation. When working with domestic violence survivors, you never want to use the word victim. They are a survivor. And also maybe rephrasing a question instead of like, have you been in a domestic violence situation, being like, has domestic violence played a role in your situation? And always treating it less like a question and more like a conversation. Again, these are people, and they're just trying to have a conversation with you as well. You always want to let them know that if they're not comfortable answering something, they don't have to, and to never put any pressure there for them to answer something they're not comfortable with. But we do need to ask all of them. When you're doing the survey, you want to try to refrain from reading the questions word for word, because you want to make it as conversational as possible. So if it comes to, what's your date of birth, you could rephrase that as, what's your birthday? Like, oh, October 29th, you're a Scorpio, like that's cool, and continue the conversation from there. When it comes to the more sensitive questions, like, do you have substance abuse issues? You could rephrase that as, are you currently struggling with drugs or alcohol? Or currently struggling with substance abuse? And it takes away the word issue and makes it more trauma informed.
Hi there, my name is Coleman Crocker. I run the Good 360 Gifts in Kind program for the United Way of the Mid-Willamette Valley, where we redistribute retail donations to local nonprofits, public schools, and faith-based organizations. Happy to be partnering with Arches in 2022 to collect donations for the Point in Time count, where we will be collecting anything from socks, underwear, cold weather clothing, tents, tarps, anything else that can help this community. Anyone that's interested in donating more of these goods can come to our Good 360 warehouse on Front Street, where we can donate all those goods in our collection bin here. And if you're interested, the address is 1100 Front Street Southeast on the commercial facing side of the building. And if you're interested in donating financially, you can go to unitedwaymwv.org.
Outreach is a team-oriented department that its backbone is derived off of serving our homeless, at-risk, low-income community. And that's what we love to do. That's what makes our job so special, is that we are a department of superheroes that get to go out and try and help and save people every single day. And that's something that you'll never experience anywhere else in the world.